20 years ago, if you wanted to know something, you would go to the library, find a book, and look up what you needed to know. No one would necessarily know you went to the library, much less what you read, and it is the same for most things you do. Very few entities know what you did. For example, hanging out with friends, shopping, and other everyday activities.
Today, however, tech companies like Apple, Google, and Facebook provide important services like search. The added convenience has come at a cost to user privacy. For example, an internet search is quick and convenient, but it also allows Google to access the inner workings of your brain, information that ad agencies and others find valuable. At this point, tech companies might know you better than yourself.
Facebook, for example, recently came under fire for its privacy practices when it was revealed political consultancy Cambridge Analytica had accessed data on over 80 million Facebook users without their knowledge. The data included information on users' personalities and social connections when they used to target audiences with political ads on the social network.
Chances are the average consumer doesn't actually read the privacy policy on a website before agreeing to terms. Instead, consumers place their trust in brands that they expect will take proper precautions to keep their data safe, and they presume will use their data responsibly.
So, what does privacy look like in our modern connected world? The EU has attempted to answer this question by introducing the General Data Protection Regulation in May 2018. The legislation stretches the right to the protection of personal data as a fundamental human right and aims to give internet users more control over the data that's collected.
It also aims to hold companies accountable for being transparent and ethical in how they use consumer data, requiring them to get explicit consent to collect consumer information and disclosure how it will be used. Technically, this requirement only applies to EU citizens. However, the global nature of tech products means users everywhere will now be asked for data.
Here are some examples of what the GDPR promises. In addition to the right to be informed and the right to access, this regulation allows consumers to request that firms delete their data, known as the right to erasure. This regulation guarantees significant rights like this, which many companies depend on for their core business model.
Look at Facebook's recent announcement of its plans to integrate Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp on the back end. Per GDPR, European authorities have the ability to ban processing operations. So this move is quietly attracting the attention of regulators like the Irish Data Protection Commission, which has asked Facebook for an urgent briefing on the proposal.
Increasing privacy sounds good, but serious questions remain about GDPR's fairness and efficacy. Criticisms include that actually understanding how your data is used online requires the technical expertise that the average person lacks, despite regulations to use clear and plain language. But even in plain language, people do not understand the consequences.
Critics also argue that consumers wishing to use tools from big companies with monopolies, like Facebook in the social networking market, don't have a meaningful choice about whether or not to consent to data collection, as products from these companies might not otherwise work as desired.
And finally, some analysis propose that GDPR unfairly hinders small companies relative to the big tech giants. The competitive edge given to big tech companies by GDPR allows them to disproportionately accumulate user data. Furthermore, people rather know that Google has their data and not, let's say, imprint projects.
Plus, smaller companies lack access to lawyers for ensuring compliance and negotiating penalties for breaches. The fines themselves may also skew towards big tech companies, as organizations can be fined up to 4% of annual global turnover or 20 million euros, whichever is greater, at both of which more easily paid for big companies.
In summary, the GDPR presents a step in the right direction to protect the privacy of the average internet consumer. First, it allows us to receive the data we give out to Google, Facebook, and other companies. Also, it allows us to potentially delete data we do not want to be out there.
However, severe challenges lie ahead. Increasingly, many people are saying, okay, Google knows all about me anyways. I'm an open book. With this cultural shift on privacy and continued dominance of big technology, future regulation may need to adapt more stringently.
For planning for the future, regulators should do three key things. 1. Lawmakers should learn to be familiar with the data collection technology behind ad and tech firms. 2. Think critically about addressing monopolistic practices of consumer-facing companies like Facebook and Google. 3. Represent the people and not the companies.